Okay, well, welcome to the 2024 Melbourne Career Expo. My name is Sue Ellson, and I'm here to run the Top 10 LinkedIn Career Tools session. I also have one of my books. I've written 5 books to give to the person who asked the best question. So keep in mind the best question, and if you ask me that, then I'll be more than happy to give you a copy of my book. So let's get started. By way of background, my career started at Westpac in Adelaide 6 days after my last Year 12 exam. I spent 11 years in the bank, moved to Melbourne, found the transition difficult and found out I was pregnant and got sacked when I was pregnant. As a result of all that, I ended up setting my first website, newcomersnetwork.com, in 2001. So I basically haven't had a real job since 1994. And I actually believe the future of work is work, it's not jobs. So I use technology to attract aligned gigs, which is why LinkedIn is one of my most favourite platforms. As I said, I've written 5 books and I'm also a member of a lot of different associations. And another key component to who I am is the amount of voluntary work I do. So today is voluntary, and I'll be at the Career Development Association of Australia's stand, so I recommend that you book an appointment with one of the other career practitioners there as well. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn, and if you'll see a little QR code come up. If you scan that code, I'll send you a copy of the slides so that you'll have all of these as well. So I want to start by making the statement that if you are getting interviews, that means something is working with your job application process. If you're not getting interviews, that means something to do with your job application is not working. So just as a general clue. And then if you get interviews and you are not actually getting the job, that means you're basically just not a fit for that organisation. Now they could give you any number of reasons. They could say, oh, well, you don't have enough experience. And you say, well, why did you interview me? There's no reason. So whatever they say is the reason you missed out on the job, just forget it and move on and go for the next one and say, well, it's either their loss or revise your strategy. So when I first came to Melbourne, I kept coming second in job interviews, and I found that really frustrating because my logical mind said second is the same as last. I mean, I still didn't get the job. But then when the next interview came along, I said, you know what? I've got this amazing experience to bring here. They should want me. So I asked them lots of questions and I said, what are the career opportunities? And I made sure that they were the right fit for me. And all of a sudden, they offered me 3 jobs in the job interview, not even after the interview had been completed. So I just had to revise my strategy and remember that I had something of value to offer, and that worked for me. So this is the QR code, and if you scan this, it will create an email which will come to me, and then I will send you out the slides. Now, I'm also doing 2 other presentations today on return to work strategies and also how to ask for a promotion or a pay rise on the main stage at 2 o'clock. But regardless, I'll send you all the slides for the whole 3 presentations. So that QR code is going to appear lots of times. If for some reason you forget, just email me and I'll happily send it on to you. So these are the top 10 LinkedIn career tools I would recommend. So as I said, my first website went online in 2001. I joined LinkedIn in 2003. So I'm member number 77832. I've been on the platform a very long time. So I've been consulting on LinkedIn since 2008. And my first LinkedIn book came out in 2016, and my second came out last year in January. So LinkedIn is my favourite social media platform, although I am on lots of the others as well. So I'm going to talk about updating your profile, thinking about skills, the jobs tab, the open to work button, ad services, strategic follows, networking and publishing, events and groups, and also getting some professional support. So, your LinkedIn profile. Now, I can't show you a LinkedIn profile today, but if you want to Google me, you'll see my profile. You can put my profile on the left of the screen, your profile on the right of the screen, and you can see how I filled it in. But one of the things that's really important is that you fully complete your LinkedIn profile. So you might say, well, hang on a minute, I don't even have a LinkedIn profile. Why should I have a LinkedIn profile? Well, the reality is that a lot of employers and recruiters will go to LinkedIn first, because if they don't have to write the job ad and they don't have to sort through 300 applicants and they just find someone they can approach on LinkedIn, it saves them a whole lot of time and money and effort. So if you have filled in your profile in detail, it's a huge database and your details can be found on that profile. So one of the things that's really important to think about is your photograph. And there's a belief that up to 65% of the time spent looking at a LinkedIn profile will be spent looking at your photo. So it's not about your age or your wrinkles, it's about the energy you convey. So when you smile in that photo, just think it's the most fabulous time of your life. I also recommend that you wear a high neck garment because it frames your face. You put your eyes on the 1/3 line, your hair at the top of the circle, and just have a little bit of your shoulders showing as well. So really convey your energy and enthusiasm. I've seen some terrible looking photos on LinkedIn that look like passport photos, and they look like they're not too happy about the world of work. So be smiling and show that enthusiasm. And wearing clothing that's suitable for the type of job you're looking for. Now, there's a lot of sections on LinkedIn to fill in, and you'll say, my goodness, do I have to fill in all of this? But if you do fill that stuff in, then nobody has to ask you any questions. So the only section I have not filled out on my LinkedIn profile is a patent, because I don't have a patent. But every other section, I've put something in there. So just go in, fill in as many boxes as you can. And if you're not working now, be aware that the algorithm, the search queries, favour the people who have a job right now. So if you're not working right now, you can add a job in, which is from the date your last job ended, and call it career research. So I've put it up here as an ad experience, and you can see it says career research at the beginning, and then it's put in the name LinkedIn and social media training, writing and consulting, and full-time, and I name the employer as various, because I don't have one yet, so I just say various. So we're not lying, but we're tricking the algorithm into believing that you're working now. And then when a human looks at it, they say, oh, they're doing career research. I can approach them for this opportunity. Whereas if you didn't have a job listed, you might not even appear in the search results. So this is a little gamification process to try and make sure that you get in the gene pool if you haven't been up to date. Now, the other thing that you need to talk about in Australia is your achievements. And you might say, well, why do I have to boast and brag? Well, if you said, I'm the best XYZ that ever worked, well, yes, that would be bragging. But if you said, in my past job, I've done A, B, C, D, E, these are all great achievements, and you write them all in past tense. So when someone looks at your LinkedIn profile, they say, oh, well, if they did that in the previous role, there's a pretty good chance they could do this again. Now, you cannot reveal anything that is commercially sensitive. So if you said, oh, I sacked 300 staff, or I increased profits by $2.4 million, that's commercially sensitive. But if you said, I've increased profits by 20%, nobody knows what it's 20% of, but it still shows that you've done a really great job if you were in sales. So just be careful about what you talk about, but definitely talk to your achievements, and you put those in past tense. All of the tasks that you've done in each role, even if it's a previous role, I encourage you to write them in present tense. So that means complete this, do that, all the different things you do in each job. So if I'm reading your LinkedIn profile and you did a job 10 years ago and I can still see it's in present tense, I'll think you're bringing those skills with you to the organisation as well, not just that they're old skills and out of date. So it's a way to keep your profile more active and interesting. I also like to include a description of every employer. So, I don't know, if you were new to Australia, would you know who Westpac was? I mean, even though it was way down at the beginning of my career. So I just mentioned it's Australia's first bank. And, I provide those details in there. There's also a section for you to add media links. So this can be a link to a YouTube video that describes something about the organisation. It could be a link to their website. But what this does is it shows people that you have not just digital literacy, which is you've got a LinkedIn profile, but digital competency because you're using all the bells and whistles that the platform has. So you can find a video and link to it, or maybe there's a document that you produce that you can share. You can pop that on there, an annual report, something like that. And then, of course, you also need to have recommendations on your LinkedIn profile. So if you're connected to someone, they can write a recommendation for you, and if you're connected to them, you can write a recommendation for them. So let's say that this person you know is a CEO of a large organisation, then you're connected to them. If you write them a recommendation, every time someone looks at that CEO, they're going to see your recommendation. So that could give you leads as well. So you need to think about where can I give other people recommendations, as well as how can I ask people to give recommendations to me. And one of the other things that you have on your LinkedIn profile is a list of skills. So you can go and look at the people you've worked with previously and endorse their skills. So if you know they're a good project manager, you would say you vote for their skilled project manager. And likewise, hopefully they'll vote for you with some of your skills. Now the difference between voting for skills and recommendations is a vote is just kind of easy. It's a bit like doing a like on Facebook. But a recommendation, you've got to write something out in full. So if we go back to that idea of the project manager, let's say that project manager was really good at being on time, on budget, but they were horrible to work with. I would not be writing a good recommendation for that project manager, because anything I put in writing can be used in court. So I would say I worked with, even in an email, not just recommendations. So if I was writing a recommendation for this project manager, I would say I worked with them here, they were on time and they were on budget, and I wish them all the best in the future. You would not say that they were a fabulous project manager, because you know that everybody didn't like them. So it's not something you want to talk about. So just be aware that it's important to get at least 6 recommendations that you've given and 6 recommendations that you've received. So back in the day when you had just a resume, you would have referrers or referees on the bottom of your bottom of your resume. This works for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So particularly if you've just moved to Melbourne, it's a really good idea to have those recommendations on there. So as I've said, the main focus of LinkedIn is around skills. So when I first joined LinkedIn back in 2003, it was basically just an online resume, and the better the job title and the better the company you worked for, the better it looked for you. But now we're moving into a society where it's our skills and the value that we offer that we need to convey. So you can add up to 50 skills on your LinkedIn profile, and then you can nominate the ones that apply to the best, which goes next to your about section, your top 5, and then where your experience is, where your education is, where your licenses and certifications, and your projects. You can nominate more skills in those sections. So if you, again, were a project manager and you put that project manager skill in all of those sections, then that increases the ranking for that skill. And if I'm a recruiter looking for your skills and it's listed in multiple sections of your LinkedIn profile, then obviously you're a better skills match than somebody else who may have worked for some fancy organisation. So remember, you've got to allocate those skills there. Give and receive endorsements, and also if you join your local library in Melbourne, you can get free access to LinkedIn Learning, and that's a huge range of online courses that you can do for free. So I don't just want you to think, oh my God, I need artificial intelligence skills. I mean, there are courses on that and you can definitely do that. But maybe you need some confidence skills, or some assertiveness skills, or some job search skills. There's lots of other courses that you could do on there as well. And when you complete it, it gets automatically added to your licenses and certification section. So it shows someone looking at your LinkedIn profile that you've done some education recently and because you've got the local library card, it didn't cost you any money at all. So that's going to be, really helpful to show that you're willing to learn and nice and up to date, and it gives some good clues in that area as well. The only thing I will warn you about, they are a bit American and they sound a bit American, but they're very thorough, and they've got really good notes and really good videos. As I said, with that local library card, you can get it for free. So when you create a LinkedIn profile, on the top of your screen, you'll see a little thing called jobs. And it will give you this little menu: My Jobs, Preferences, Interview Prep, Job Seeker Guidance, Post a Free Job, and Manage Job Posts. Now again, it is very American, but the interview prep could be very good for you if you haven't had an interview for a while. There's Job Seeker Guidance, which is generic tips, which could also be helpful. You can set up job alerts. So if there's particular jobs you want to come up for, you can set those alerts up and you'll be automatically notified of them. And that's all. If you go to linkedin.com/jobs, you'll see all of those features there. So definitely check that out. Don't forget, the person who asks me the best question at the end gets the copy of the book. So I'm looking forward to answering lots of great questions. And any question is fine. Don't think it's a stupid question. Like, I'm used to all sorts of questions. I've been teaching since 1987, so I'm ready for any questions you've got. All right, now, on your LinkedIn profile, there's an Open To button, and you can say you're open to work. And when you fill that in, you can add in 5 job titles. You can add in 3 location types, whether you're prepared to work on-site, hybrid, sometimes at home, sometimes at the workplace, or completely remotely. You can also add up to 5 locations that you're prepared to work either online or remotely for. You can say when you're wanting to start the job, so you might not be seriously looking just yet, you might be flexible, or you're ready right now. The employment types, now you can see I've ticked here part-time, contract and temporary, but the reason I've ticked those is I don't want a full-time job. I've got lots of other things that I do, so I don't want full-time, but I'm still saying that I'm open to work. So if somebody does find me, they want me just for a gig, they can definitely reach out to me. And then I've chosen the recruiters only option because I don't want that green frame around my face which says I'm open to work. And the reason I don't want that there is because I feel it would make me look desperate. So my goal is to appear in search results. That's my #1 goal. So I get something like 900 profile views in 90 days. So that's a lot of people looking at my LinkedIn profile. So I want them, and I also appear in about 700 search results in 7 days. So I want to appear in search results so people look at me, and then when they read through the information, they self-select. They say, yes, Sue's a fit for me, or no, Sue's not a fit for me. So I don't want them ringing me and asking me 64 questions and wasting my time, so I don't have that time. It's just me. So, oops, sorry about that. I really just want to make sure that I get found and then they self-select. That's my goal with my LinkedIn profile. So that's why I don't have the green frame on there and why I do the career research. How long do I leave? I leave it on all the time. Yeah, because I don't have a normal full-time job. But if I was just looking for a full-time job, I would tick the full-time one and the others as well, because I still want to appear in search results. So what's been really interesting to me is I've met a lot of people, particularly women, who take some time out of the workforce and then they come back and they say, I can only work part-time. And then they take some crappy job for the next 10 years because they think that's the only part-time job they can get. Whereas the reality is, if they use their skills and work 2 days a week, they could be paid what they're worth, continue their skills, and they could get part-time work, but it was only like 2 days, so they only have to make arrangements for 2 days, not 5 days, and they would be so much happier. So that's why I talk to, ticking all the boxes, getting in search results first, and then letting people work out whether you're a fit or not after that. That makes sense? Yeah. Great question. Well done. Ooh, already got one person in the running here. That's fantastic. Alright, so the other option you can do, and it used to be on the Open To button, and they've now moved it as a section of your LinkedIn profile. So you have to look for section, services. So the services are only what LinkedIn lists. There's a lot of services that you and I might do that are not listed there. But if you can find some that are remotely close to what you do, put them in. Because you can add in 10 services that you offer. So we all know that the cost of living has gone up, and if we could squeeze in that job on the weekend and get paid what we're worth, who wouldn't want that kind of a gig? So you can include a 500 character introduction, you can include a work location, you can include pricing, or you can say contact me for pricing. You can put in some digital media, so you can put in imagery of what you've done in the past, or PDFs of something you would like to share. You can get client requests, and what you end up with is a services page. So that's the link to my services page, and you can see how I've filled it in. So a lot of people don't realise that this services section is there, and I want you to think, don't just think I need a full-time job, I need a full-time job, I need a full-time job. There's all these other ways to think about work going forward, and if you're not working now and you get into one of these little temporary things, that can quite often lead to something else afterwards. So I just want you to expand your mind, because I think a lot of us have this very narrow idea of what does work look like, and then I'm just trying to sort of blur the edges a little bit and help you see that there might be some other options as well. Now the next thing is, when you think about LinkedIn as a huge database, you've got to remember that the only way you're going to be found in that database is if your information is in there. Likewise, if you are already following the companies where you would like to work, then you're more likely to appear in their search results. So I know for a fact, I used to work at Westpac, but I know for a fact that the National Australia Bank looks for new employees based on who is already following the National Australia Bank. So you need to do a little bit of research and find out, well, which of the companies would be great employers for me, and you need to follow them. And then what you can do, there's a little grey notification bell on the company page, and you can click that and you can choose all new posts. So that means from now on, you'll see more of their content in your news feed. So if you start liking their posts, they're going to say, who's this Sue who keeps liking all my posts? And then they might look at you as well, okay? So not only are you going to be able to see the organisation and what they're doing, but they're more likely to find you when they're searching for someone. There's some of them also have careers or jobs posts as well, so you can see that their opportunities that they've got. And if you add really lengthy comments that are useful, that can show that you're interested in the organisation.
What's your recommendation for somebody who's a graduate or will be a graduate, so they don't have a lot of work experience per se, in terms of putting in skills or types of recommendations that they should be assessing?
Great, okay, so the question is about somebody who's a recent graduate and doesn't have a lot of work experience, and what sort of skills and things do they put on their LinkedIn profile. And I'm doing that for the video as well as the other people who may not have heard the question. Okay, so I do a lot of work with secondary schools, helping the Year 12 students usually create their LinkedIn profile. So first of all, they've all had part-time jobs, or they've had volunteer experience, so they need to fill all of that in. And yes, they did do particular skills in their university course, so yes, they can add those in. Now, interestingly, I heard about a group of engineering students who all voted for everybody else's skills in the class. So they all got together and they all voted for one another's skills. But I had this beautiful story of a young man who did accounting studies, and he managed to get more or less an internship with an accounting firm, but it kind of didn't work out. Like they were just not a fit. That was sad. So his dad paid for him to come to see me, which I didn't like, because I'd rather the young person come to see me rather than the dad pay for it. But anyway, he came, and first of all what I did is I got him to come along to a group session so other people could give him advice, not just me. And what we did is we said in his LinkedIn headline, which is directly underneath his name, he was an aspiring accountant. Aspiring. So he appears in the search results for accountant, But when someone reads it, they realise he's aspiring. And likewise, you could still do that career research choice that I showed you before, that he was career research for accounting. And believe it or not, he got another job with a firm who absolutely loved him. So I was so excited because he lost a lot of his confidence through that process. So just keep giving it a crack, and yeah, you definitely can. And think about all the things you learn even in a hospitality job. You might have been doing stock control. You might have developed a new system for ordering. You can add all those in as achievements. So although it wasn't necessarily related to accounting, it shows that the person is willing to give things a go. I also do this because I've been working with people who are new to Melbourne since 2001 when I set up my first website. And I've had engineers working in pizza shops who redesign the layout of the pizza shop so everything, you know, they can put out more pizzas more often for hotter, cheaper price. You know, engineers are great at that stuff, right? So then they have Australian local experience even though they were just working in a pizza shop. So yeah, please talk to all of those things and all the skills that you learn. Gee whiz, I'm going to put the incentive for a book to questions again more often because I'm getting such great questions. Thank you for that. Oh yes, another one.
I was just wondering, like, manageable, especially with regulations and policies. So, like, first question is, also which of the questions should we propose our network proactively, or should we ask or wait for requests that somebody asks us and we go through?
Okay, so the question is, when we've got skills on our LinkedIn profile, should we actively or proactively try and get votes for them? I think it's really good practice to go and do it for everybody else because you'll be surprised at how often they'll then do it for you. So I definitely start with that process first. And then if you find that you're just not getting enough at all, then yes, you could, you know, make a few calls, send a few messages. So some years ago, I was working with this very intelligent lawyer, and there was a LinkedIn profile that had 0 recommendations received, 0 recommendations given, and 160 that they have received, right? And I'm thinking, wow, you know, this is one selfish person who is willing to receive everything and never give anything. But you know what the lawyer said? Well, clearly no one asked. What a great lawyer answer. They've got an answer for everything and they manage to get to the crux of the problem. So if you don't ask, you might not get. And this is the same with your career. If you say, please God, universe, spiritual advisor, whoever it is you believe in, give me a job. Okay, well I'll give you this crappy job because you didn't tell me what job you wanted. Like, make it really clear the type of work you would like. And I've got lots more stories about that later, but yeah, thank you, great question. So, strategic networking. You have to be clear on your goal. So if you just say, look, any job will do, that's not going to help you. You've got to narrow it down. So there was a woman I was working with from South America who was a broadcast engineer. So here in Australia, the people who wear black clothing and do all the broadcasting stuff, they've never been to university. They just got the job from somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody. And of course, none of them had LinkedIn profiles either. So we looked up the myfuture.edu.au website and we found that most people in broadcasting didn't have degrees and there was not many job prospects. And then we looked on LinkedIn and we found none of them were listed on LinkedIn. And I said, this is fantastic news because somebody one day is going to wake up needing somebody in broadcasting who doesn't know somebody who wears black clothing, and they're going to search on LinkedIn, and guess what? She got a job as a broadcast engineer without any Australian experience because she was the only one on LinkedIn who had those details. So please fill in your LinkedIn profile. You know, like, I just cannot emphasize how important that is. Now the next thing is, if you feel you've got any level of disadvantage, most jobs are never advertised, right? So if you're only looking at advertised jobs, you are missing out on a huge gene pool of jobs. So my 3 favourite ways to look for work are through networking, which is what you're doing today. You're out and about, you're meeting people, asking questions, and then you ask someone, you say, can you tell me someone who knows something about project management? And then you get a referral. So let's say you get referred to Roger by Ian, okay? So when you talk to Roger, you say, Ian said I should call you. So now the relationship that Roger has with Ian is the same as what you've got. And then Roger's going to be much more willing to either help you or pass you on to somebody else. So aim for referrals. And then also, if you don't have any local Australian experience, you can work on a voluntary basis. Now, ideally close to home and something related to what you already do. So I worked with a Brazilian guy who couldn't speak any English, but he was an amazing graphic designer. So I went with him to a local business and said he needs to practice his English, and in the meantime he'll do graphic design work for you, because he could still do graphic design. So he improved his English skills in that job, and then they paid for his public transport tickets, and then after that he got his own job, and he's been there ever since. So, you know, you don't want to work for free for 40 hours a week and be slave labour, but if there's a benefit that you can get out of going in and getting, in his case, English practice, definitely consider doing that. Voluntary work is also a great place to meet people, because when you get chatting, because you're all doing some project together, they'll say, then what do you do? Oh, I know someone who could help you. And then you get referrals. So that's great networking. It gets you out of the house, makes you put on fresh clothes for the day. You know, there's lots of great benefits to volunteering. You will find people who can provide information and people who can refer. So another great story is of this beautiful French man who came to Melbourne because his wife got a job in the automotive industry, and she was a very senior executive. So he had this little part-time job from his parent company in France, and I had to help him get a job. Now, he was a very senior management accountant. But the problem was, here in Australia, none of the recruiters would look at you unless you had a CPA qualification. So no matter how good his resume or LinkedIn profile was, if he didn't have CPA, no one was interested. So I helped him update his LinkedIn profile, and then we found someone on LinkedIn that he could get a referral from. And this was a guy who'd worked in consulting for many years, who also spoke French. So he met with him for coffee. He referred him to a manufacturing firm who did international business. And he went along and he went for the job interview. He was the only candidate. And guess what? He got a perfectly good management accounting full-time job on the spot. So this is the value of networking, referrals, you know, like it can really, really work for you. Now, if Ian refers you to Roger and you speak to Roger, you must go back to Ian and say thank you, and this is what happened. You must do that. Like the number of people saying thanks and off, you know, you just take. I really dislike that. So always go back and say thank you to the person who referred you and let them know what happened, even if it wasn't great. So, as I said, I found that really great guy who spoke French on a LinkedIn search, but you can also do something called a Google Advanced Search. So when you do a search on LinkedIn, it's only going to search your network and the network of people you're connected to. But on Google Advanced Search, you can search the entire LinkedIn database. So just Google Advanced Search, and you'll get some boxes up the top. You put in the words you want to find, and then down the bottom there's a box that says website, and you put in linkedin.com, and now you can search the entire LinkedIn database for as long as you like. No limitations. So you can really narrow down the people. Yep.
Another question, which is like based on your experience, because you mentioned also you're LinkedIn agents.
I have.
Would you say like LinkedIn is a platform just more designed like for mid-level / higher management? Would you say like if somebody actually was like a lower level job, for example, they're all like a system, would that still make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so the question is LinkedIn just for the people at the higher end of the level, the people over 150,000, or is it for everybody? I absolutely believe it is for everybody. And I'll tell you a couple of reasons why. if you type in someone's name into Google or even Bing, the number one website that's likely to come up is LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is highly optimized for your name. So if I'm considering you as a job candidate, 75% of people will Google you before a job interview and 95% before a job offer. So if I Google you and nothing is there, I'm going to say, not so sure about this candidate. So that's the number one reason, you will be Googled. The number two reason is we all need a network. My dad worked for an airline company that collapsed. He worked shift work, so he had no life apart from my mother who ran everything, right? So on the day his job died, he had nothing, no network whatsoever, no way of keeping in touch with anyone. So every time the word Ansett is mentioned to my mother, she just wants to kill him because, you know, that was his past life. But I haven't had a real job since 1994. My tax accountant said to me, Sue, I need you to talk to 3 of your clients and ask them to prepay you before the 30th of June. So I went to 3 of my clients and I asked them if they would be happy to prepay me. I didn't give them an amount. All 3 paid me. One paid me $750 up front, one gave me $2,200, and another one gave me $5,500. Now you tell me, if you have a network and you put the call out and say, I need something, you're much more likely to have a network if you've connected with everybody on the journey. And then there'll be someone in that network who will be able to help you. So people change their phone numbers, they change their address, they change their country, change their job. But if you're connected on LinkedIn, you'll always be able to reconnect with that person. And if you publish something at least once a month, or you engage and like something, they'll remember you. So when the time comes and they need someone with your expertise, they'll contact you. Does that make sense? So please, everybody, every single person, I recommend that you have a LinkedIn profile. I don't work for LinkedIn, I don't get paid by LinkedIn, I've got no shares in LinkedIn, there's no reason for me to tell you, but of all the social media platforms, I believe it's the one that offers the most value because we all need a network. And particularly as jobs get scarcer, it will be our relationships that keep us in work. It won't be, you know, necessarily our fabulous job search skills. It'll be relationships.
That topic, because in the network, a lot of like connections, are just anybody that's exact. It's basically
yeah, so it's not a close relationship, but as I said, it's you still can reach out. You can do what the lawyer said, just ask. You know, you've got somewhere to start. But if you didn't connect with all the people you worked with in every job, you'll forget who they were and you won't be able to find them. So yeah, it's just really important to have a network. Yeah. All right, the next thing you can do on LinkedIn is you can do publishing. So particularly if you've got your own little business, you can curate content, so you can find other great content and share it, or you can create your own content. Now there'll be some social media trainers who'll tell you you've got to post 5 times a day. Well, I don't know who the hell's got time to post 5 times a day, but it sure isn't me. And if I did post 5 times a day, I would lose all my connections because they'd say, shut up, Sue, we're sick of hearing from you. So I do not recommend it. Twice a week, you know, sometimes 3. You can put posts which go in the news feed. You can write articles which stay on the internet basically forever. And you can also do newsletters, which if you've got 150 followers on either your personal profile or your company page, it automatically invites people to subscribe to your newsletter. So I put out a newsletter once a month, and that's like an article on steroids because it messages everybody when I publish it. So I love articles. And there's a new feature on LinkedIn called collaborative articles. Now you need to go to that link to see them. But if you write little comments on those collaborative articles, they've been generated by artificial intelligence. This is not sexy fun work, but let me assure you, if you do write responses to those articles, it will share that information with other people in your network. Because it's a new feature of LinkedIn, they're pushing it. So I've written enough comments, so you can see I've got that little orange tab which says Top Career Development Voice. That's simply because I answered a few of those collaborative articles. So, just spend 10 or 15 minutes, go to that link, choose a topic, write some comments, and you too can have a nice little orange button on your LinkedIn profile. Now, the other thing is when you share content on LinkedIn, it's not like YouTube where the only thing you can do is a video. You can do videos, you can do images, you can do text, you can put PDFs on there. So you can save a PowerPoint presentation to PDF and then it becomes a little slideshow. And that's really interesting to have a little slideshow in your newsfeed. But the one that's working really, really well at the moment is polls. So if you write a little poll, a question with a few little choice answers, that will go more viral than just, a little picture and some words. So think about being strategic about what you publish. Don't forget to include hashtags and at mentions. So if you're mentioning, I saw Sue Ellson at the Melbourne Career Expo, if you do at Sue Ellson, I will definitely like it and I will definitely comment on it. So you can keep that in mind as well. Now, groups. Groups used to be fantastic on LinkedIn. Before it had a news feed, groups were the place to be. And you can have really good discussions and meet really interesting people, and it was all fantastic. Sadly, when the news feed came in, groups were forgotten about, and they've tried to regurgitate them at least 3 times, and it hasn't kind of worked. So I kind of just want to let you know, by all means go and check out groups, but I haven't found them to be that effective. But events are a different thing. So if you look for events which might be attracting the same type of people that you want to network with, most of the events on LinkedIn are free. So you can join that event and you can see everyone else who's registered. And there's another little gene pool of people that you could network with, and it could be related to your topic, and you could say, hi, I'm looking for this type of work, would love to connect, and try and get some information from those people. So I run a monthly webinar. It only goes for 30 minutes, so you can see my next 3 that are coming up, and you can also see that I've run 43 in the past. So again, it gives you some clues as to the nature of the person, whether they're a Johnny-come-lately or they've been doing this for a long time. Now, the most obvious one, you've all come to a career expo to get expert advice. But most people I have found when they go looking for jobs, they ask their friends, their colleagues, their great uncle Arthur, all these people who have no idea about job search and job search techniques. So please visit the Career Development Association Australia stand. We can scan your resumes, we can give you career advice, or you can look at us on the internet on the CDAA website, and you can scroll through and see if you can find someone who's the right fit for you. Now, a lot of coaches offer packages. I am not a fan of packages because I'm here to represent you, not to represent the seller, right? So I recommend that if you want to speak to somebody, you pay for a 1-hour session first. And you say, look, I'm sorry, I can't do packages, but I've done my due diligence. I believe you've got a great network. You've got the skills in the areas I'm looking for. I've looked at your website. I understand you do assessments or you don't do assessments, whatever it is. And say, I'd like to book a 1-hour session to see if this will work, and I'm happy to pay for it. Please do not sign up for these thousands of dollars programs because so many people drop out of them at the beginning and all their money has disappeared. Likewise, I don't want you to sign up to some ridiculously expensive course when you could just do some micro credentials. So I have a friend who was a database administrator, which is basically a computer geek, and he wanted to become a data scientist, which is basically somebody who uses artificial intelligence and statistics and business process, which is completely different. And all he did was a whole bunch of micro credentials from MOOCs, massive online open courses from universities all over the world. He did this little bit and that little bit, and he went straight from a job as a database administrator to a data scientist at the same salary. And all he needed was some micro credentials. He didn't need a full master's, PhD, something like that. So after he got that job, he thought maybe I should just go out and get a master's anyway. And what he found was they were all expensive and they were 5 years out of date. So again, think about using those micro-credentials first. And my goal would be to encourage you to develop job search skills. They are very different to job skills. Doing the job is very different to getting the job. They're a different set of skills. So learn what they are, and hopefully you'll get a more aligned and better paying job. So if you do pay for professional advice, that's the opportunity you have of getting into something that's much more aligned rather than just a job for now. Although there's nothing wrong with that. So there are my top 10 tips. I'm just conscious of time because I'm out of here at 11:30, so I want to give you some more time for questions. There are some additional resources that I'd like to recommend. The myfuture.edu.au website is free to sign up to. You do have to sign up, but it has careers quiz, job descriptions, salary predictions, keywords that you can use on your LinkedIn profile. Really, really helpful. There's a finding a job guide on the Victorian Government website. Anything put out by the government is usually pretty good quality here in Australia. Jobs Victoria has some personalised support options to help you get work. And of course there's the Career Development Association of Australia helping you get one-on-one advice. There's also things called employee assistance programs. So 50% of Australians have access to an employee assistance program. So let's say you're in a job now and you're finding it terrible. You can confidentially contact an employee assistance program and ask for advice. And it doesn't go back to your employer that I'm looking for a job. Because it could be your mental health. I mean, it could be that this job is so toxic that you need to get out. And these employee assistance programs even have personal concierge services. So let's say everything in your life is terribly overwhelming. They can help structure things and get you back on track so that you can either A, do better in your job, or B, help you move on. So consider that. A lot of people who are made redundant get access to outplacement services, and quite often they're so angry at losing their job they don't take up the advice of the outplacement service. If you've got access to that, go for it, get some advice, and make sure you ask for what you want out of that. Selected recruiters. So if you find a recruiter who has worked in your industry for a minimum of 3 years and specialises in jobs that you're looking for, then they may be interested in hearing from you. But a recruiter works on behalf of the employer, it doesn't work on behalf of the candidate. So remember, you cannot go to a recruiter and expect free advice. But if that recruiter needs a gene pool of project managers, for example, then that could be very helpful that you go on their database because then they've got an extra project manager they can refer. Education providers, sometimes if you're doing a course, there's a careers section in the university or the TAFE, and they've got extra support that you can access. Most of the time it will say you need to do another course, so just ignore that bit of advice and just go for the other bits of advice and the networks and the opportunities they can refer you to. Also local community services, council programs. If you're receiving government benefits, sometimes there's access to other resources that way as well. Beware of the advice from those well-meaning friends and family. I have a label in my family which is I'm the academic who never finishes anything, which is utter rubbish. I was doing a TAFE course and it was terrible and I chose to leave it and then I went out and did a degree. That's not giving up. That's making sure I'm doing what's aligned for me. So if you go back to those people who have this idea of you in their mind, they're only going to give you advice from their perspective. And that may not be the best advice for you. I can see some nods of acknowledgement here. So I can see some of you have got some of that bad advice in the past. And also, if you do need to submit a resume to an online portal of some sort, it needs to be applicant tracking system friendly. So that does not mean created in Canva with lots of colour and images and boxes, because the applicant tracking system cannot read that. It needs to be just a plain text document. So just keep that in mind. All of my webinars, I'll come to you in a sec, are free and available on my website. So if you go to sueellson.com/presentations, you don't have to log in, you don't have to pay, you can watch all of those webinars. And these are the 3 presentations I'm doing today. There's 3 presentations from last year. You can look at all of those on my website as well. And I'd love to know what's been most helpful. And if you would like to write a Google review, I'll be very excited about that as well. So your question there, and then I'll be able to only take one more, and then I've got to decide who gets the book. Yes? I can't hear you. Can you come closer?
Couple of questions. One was, of course, I can download the slides from the page.
Yes, you can.
Yeah. And then the second one was, what's your recommendation? What's your take on LinkedIn Premium?
Great question. What's my recommendation on LinkedIn Premium? All right. If you haven't filled out your LinkedIn profile, LinkedIn Premium is a complete waste of your money. You have to fill in your LinkedIn profile first, and you have to optimize it. Just because you're paying money doesn't mean you'll appear in search results if you don't have the keywords on your LinkedIn profile. So you've got to do that first, okay? Now, secondly, I am getting work myself. So being able to see who looked at me in the last 90 days is a tremendous benefit for me, because they're all warm leads. So it's really, really helpful to me to say, hi George, thanks for stopping by, would you like to connect? Anything I can help you with? So for that, it's fantastic. It does put me higher in search results, it does give me emails, it does all the other things, but I would still recommend that you do all of the free stuff first and do all of the things that you can do without it. None of my clients have needed it. Yeah. Don't worry, I will be at the back, but Melita is coming up for another presentation, so I'll happily answer others. Yeah. Yep.
Information to write a mention. So my first question is, how can we do verification by a first name, but it is not giving me verified.
Oh, you want to know whether you need to be verified?
Yes.
Yes, okay. And I'll have to end it on this question. All right, the verification tool is there, and what LinkedIn wants you to do, if you don't have an email address that can be verified, is they want you to scan your passport using a third-party provider scanning your chip. I'm an ex-banker, it makes me feel sick when I tell you I did it because I wanted to see how it would work. What it did is it changed the name of my LinkedIn profile to Suzanne, which is the name on my LinkedIn profile, but everywhere I'm Sue. So it was of absolutely no benefit to me. So I was able to verify it with an email address I had added to my LinkedIn profile from many years ago. So it's not essential. I, as a recruiter, can see when you joined LinkedIn. When I click on the More button, it says about this profile, and I can see when you joined. And I'll also assess your content and your recommendations way before I'll check the verification tab. So it's not important. So yeah, please don't think you have to do it. I mean, they're trying to push it because they want.
Because I'm Indian citizen, I don't have to do
No.
third party.
Yeah, so don't worry about it. Just fill in everything else and make your profile look spectacular. I can't. I've got to go because Melita is coming up next. I will be around, so you can still ask me questions. And I'll be back here at 11:30, I think, for another presentation. So welcome to come back to that one as well. So thank you. I think the best question was this lady. And thank you for coming and enjoy the expo.